The brain really is a remarkable thing. Well, most people's brains. A brain is composed of nothing more than a jumble of neurons and blood vessels, and yet somehow it's the root of our consciousness, our personality, and reasoning. Plus, it's the only organ to have named itself. Mine's called Brian. Brian the brain. It's an anagram. Forget it. But that's downright foolish, I hear you cry. Brains can't have names like Brian, they've got no gender. Well, in the age-old and, I should add, very important debate about gender equality, surely our brain should be front and centre of that chat. So, what do we know? Are male and female brains really different? Now wait, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Greg mate, get with the times. What's with this rigid man-woman thing? Gender's fluid. Don't put us in a box. But historically, there have only been two boxes, and men and women have been treated like they come from different planets. So I want to know if there's any basis for it inside our skulls. When it comes to what men and women can and cannot do, stereotypes abound. We've all heard how men are supposed to have better spatial reasoning, while women are much more caring and are better at multitasking. But nobody likes to feel genetically inferior just because of the contents of their underwear. So countless scientific studies have set out to really dig down into the truth of our gender differences. And here's the thing. When it comes to behaviour, some of the stereotypes do seem to be supported by the evidence. Men, for instance, do seem to be better at navigating. In a study that asked participants to navigate a virtual maze, men performed 50% better than women. That was partly down to how men attempted to find their way, choosing to use compass directions to head in roughly the right direction, whereas women attempted to memorise a specific route to follow. And women really are better at multitasking. Researchers gave both men and women 8 minutes to complete 3 tasks: solving maths problems, finding restaurants on a map, and figuring out how to find a lost key in a field. But they then surprised participants with a phone call in the middle of the task. If they answered, they were subjected to a general knowledge quiz. The results revealed that the women coped pretty well with juggling all 4 tasks at once, but the men crumbled and became illogical in looking for the lost key, something their superior spatial reasoning should have helped them with. Here's one bit of good news for us blokes and our spatial reasoning though. We are in fact a bit better at putting together flat pack furniture than the female of the species. Yeah, in an investigation sponsored by IKEA, men were able to assemble a trolley more accurately and more quickly than women, both with and without the instructions. That's that one settled, with actual data, right? Well, while these types of conclusions may seem compelling, they should be taken with a pinch, nay, a handful of salt. Thanks to behaviour studies' complicated experimental design, the number of participants is usually small. In general, when it comes to this kind of research, the more people studied, the larger the sample size, then the better idea we have of what's really going on. But with just a small sample size, we can't be sure of how the findings translate to the population as a whole, or how they might differ between ethnic groups or people of different ages. Plus, and this is a big one, just because men or women might be more likely to behave in a certain way doesn't mean that their behaviour is caused by their gender. It's incredibly tricky to separate any real gender differences from the effects of our cultural conditioning. Trust me, dressing a girl in pink and giving a boy a toy car is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to society's gender norms. Growing up within these norms does shape our behaviour, so it becomes difficult to align any particular actions with any hardwired differences in our brains. To find those, we need to turn our attention to the brain's structure as opposed to its function. The latest studies have used magnetic resonance imaging to study the brains of thousands of participants, and the results that are emerging seem to go against our gendered brain stereotypes. There are some slight differences between the brains of self-identified men and women. Men's brains tend to be larger overall, whilst women's have thicker cortexes, the outer layer of the brain that's involved with cognitive function. But the remarkable thing is that there seems to be no purely male brains versus female brains. While some features are more commonly seen in either men or women, each individual will have a combination of typically male and typically female features patched together in their brain like a mosaic. And there are so many possible pictures that this mosaic can form that there is scope for limitless variation. If I handed you a brain right now and you weren't completely grossed out, I'd be willing to bet that you couldn't tell if it was a Brian or a Bryony. And that's probably refreshing news to many. The fact that a brain isn't male or female, it isn't binary, is totally in line with our growing awareness and appreciation of how gender itself can be non-binary. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, share it with your mates, and subscribe to Earth Lab for more new science videos. But now me and Brian are off to assemble a Billy bookcase and a Pawang armchair, although there's probably still a screw missing.